alongside Royden Ogletree on Tuesdays. And Royden, there's some potentially huge news out of North Carolina today about the greatest NFL coach of all time possibly taking their job.
Possibly the greatest coach of all time?
Yeah.
Do you want to go that route?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I mean, like,
I don't know how you would quantify that, but I mean, everybody wants to go to the NFL. If Nick Saban could have held his water in the NFL, he'd still be in the NFL, but
yeah,
he didn't.
Well, and look, I think sometimes I don't think Nick Saban doesn't get the fairest of shakes
about his Dolphins tenure.
About the Dolphins tenure, because ownership is the most important thing in the NFL. It's more important than the coach and the quarterback, because without good ownership, the coach and the quarterback don't happen. Right?
You need owners that want to spend money and get out of the way, really.
Yeah, you need owners that have vision for what they want, and yeah, get out of the way. Or how can I help make this happen? That agree with your vision. You need alignment of ownership, GM, coach. Like, you need that. Just like, and then the way it is in college athletics is you need president, AD, coach, like in agreement. Like, this is the path. And so the Dolphins have terrible ownership.
They have the longest. They have like a Cleveland Indians or a Seattle Mariners style like playoff streak going on. Cleveland Guardians rather, but going on where it's like, I think 21 years since they've won a playoff game.
Yeah.
So Nick said it wouldn't have mattered. Like, it just hasn't been good for whoever's gone in there, really.
No, I mean, so do I think he would have figured it out eventually? Yes. Do I think his heart was ever truly in it? No. I think like once he got back there, he realized, no, I don't really like it. Miss Terry hated Miami. She's not like, that's part of it. Was when you move your wife to a place that she abjectly does not like.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much you're making or whatever, like, it wasn't her. Like, she's a college town lady. She's the college town lady. Miami is not a college town. Coral Gables, where Miami is barely a college town, and is only a college town because there's a college in it. But if you
they stuck it right in the middle.
Yeah, just like right there. Miami is not a college town. There's nothing college towny about Miami.
Yeah, there's realtors in Austin that said she was the college town queen.
Also, here's the thing. Austin, not a college town. Like, it's got a college area, but not a college town anymore.
Not anymore. No,
not
it's
anymore.
Silicon Valley of the South.
Yeah. Manhattan, Kansas is a college town. Athens, Georgia is a college town.
Ames, Iowa.
Ames, Iowa is a college town. Like, those are college towns.
Yeah.
Now, universities and college, that's just talking about where you live and what you like, right? Like, to me, again, it doesn't really matter where a place is. If you have that spine of somebody, of president, AD, whatever, like, the city where it is doesn't matter. If you have good leadership, then it doesn't matter. Like, well, why would anybody ever want to play football in Green Bay, Wisconsin? Well, they're a really Rel-1 organization.
Because they got 100 owners.
Yeah, but they've got a president. they have, generally throughout their history, they've had pretty solid alignment down that spine. The Dolphins never have. Look, I may want to go live in Vegas and play for the Raiders, but I do know this, that as long as Mark Davis owns that team, it's going to be chaos.
Yeah.
And up until about 2 months ago, like, you could ignore everything about Jerry Jones, like, in the world, because everything was set up so well, but now he's lost his grip as the owner.
The house of cards is kind of coming down a little bit.
That's the thing, is like, he was always a terrible GM and an amazing owner. Now I don't think he's that good of an owner. Like, the two sides of themselves are finally fighting with each other.
Right.
Like, as where before they were like, good job, Jerry GM. Great job, Jerry owner. Thanks for your support.
High five.
And now it's like, you know what, Jerry GM, you're messing up. And he's like, you know what, you shut up. And then he realizes, I'm just talking to myself. So that's
affirmations in the mirror every morning.
And by the way, quick sidebar. The way they lost that game last night was an elevated practice squad player on a punt that got blocked when punt block wasn't called, when all they had to do was just stand, like, when all they had to do is just stand there and everything's going to be fine. I like to call that kind of reaction the childish billionaire heir move where, I'll prove to my dad that I'm as good as him. And really, you can't do that. All you should do is like, you know what? I'm going to go do what I want to do.
They call that the Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
When he was in Atlanta.
You know what? We'll call it the Kendall.
The Kendall Roy?
The Kendall Roy.
Yeah.
The Kendall Roy there is like, no, I can do this. I'm the one. That was a Kendall Roy right there. Like, no, I'll show you I can do it. When really, if you just sat there and let it happen, everything would be fine.
Right.
And so the Cowboys Kendall Roy, that ending, with a practice squad player trying to recover a blocked punt who clearly didn't know what was going on and got caught up in the moment. Now, I feel bad for him. Now, here's what I do know about the current Cowboys. Jimmy Johnson would have cut that guy during the game. Like, basically, he would have come over, and I do feel bad for him, but everybody makes mistakes. But he would have cut that guy during the game. He'd have been like, look, there's 2 minutes left in this thing. Why don't you go to the locker room now and get in the showers first? Because I have nothing to say.
I don't want to look at you.
I don't want to see you. I don't want to look at you. You can talk to Steven and Jerry on your way out. They will give you your severance
walking
package.
papers,
Yeah, they'll give you, they'll conduct the exit interview, right? Well, this Cowboys squad, because of the rule, you can get any guy. Like, you can get another guy who cannot do that and do the same exact thing and be a special. They're out there. Believe me, they're out there. That guy is out there. That guy is also out there that can do exactly what Zeke Elliott does for 1/20th of the cost that they did, but they won't get rid of him either. Because they sold a bunch of jerseys 9 years ago. But the way that game ended was the most Cowboys thing ever.
Yeah, and then you throw like a something short of the sticks, and he spins out of it and sprints for a touchdown with a minute left. Not great for the boys up in Arlington. Yeah. But I kind of knew that the Bengals were going to win. They're like the best 5-7 team of all time, or 5-8 team of all time. Still probably won't make the playoffs, and Joe Burrow is going to be like the best passer in the NFL. But I digress. We were going to talk about Bill Belichick.
Yeah, but we're talking about Bill Belichick. That was an aside. Yeah. Brought to you by, you know what? Brought to you by our newest sponsor, Revive Superfoods.
Look at that.
We don't have the logo up yet because it just came in this morning. But Revive Superfoods, the sponsor of that aside. There we go.
Would you like some sides with your Revive Superfoods?
There we go. So, every time I mention a new sponsor, Emery Leg goes, crap.
I can get that one up there.
This is just another thing I've got to do. I told him I'm going to make it easier for him today, and he did give me a look of like, okay, when that happens, let me know. He did that.
The next time will be the first time, Paul.
Bill Belichick, according to Ollie Connolly of The Guardian, has agreed to become the next North Carolina coach. Now, North Carolina has not agreed to his stipulations. He's given them a 400-page organizational Bible, of which he has one for NFL teams and one for college teams. And one of the things that they thought was maybe that his son Steve would be the coach in waiting, which, here's the thing. If you're just going to hire a coach in waiting already, then hire that guy.
Yeah.
But, and let him say, hey, Dad, can I have your book? I don't know. Like, to me, that might be cheaper. But
also, I don't know if Steve Belichick.
It would require historic levels of investment from the school, include salary minimums position by position, and a willingness to hire two staffs, a coaching staff run by Belichick and a recruitment staff run by a sitting college GM who would require a buyout. He has one of each and needs the sign-off from AD, Chancellor, trustees, boosters. So this is North Carolina, like what he is saying. And look, here's what I believed about North Carolina for a long time. This is a team that in football has not won the ACC since the early 80s. I think since it's been 40-plus years since they've won the ACC in football.
Several rebuilds since, I mean 40 years ago, but yeah,
several
rebuilds since then.
They are, to say that they're the Texas A&M of the ACC is insulting to Texas A&M because Texas A&M has competed for and won conference titles. Like they have. I mean, they haven't won one in the SEC, but they've since the 80s they won a big handful of Southwest Conference titles. They won a Big 12 title, and until 2 weeks ago they were in the running for the SEC title. North Carolina, especially since 1992 when Florida State joined the league, has been pushed to an absolute afterthought when it comes to football. They are the also-ran of also-rans, yet they have a lot of sway. They're a big university. In fact, one could even say they're the flagship university of the entire ACC.
Do you want to make that argument?
What?
You want to make that argument?
I think I can.
Okay, go for it. I'm willing to hear.
I mean, look, the ACC is housed in where? It's
Charlotte?
in North Carolina. Now, why is that? It's because most of the schools, when the conference was started, were in North Carolina. So you're talking about UNC, NC State, Duke, Wake Forest, all in North Carolina. That's 4 schools in one state. They have no other state do they dominate more. And of the schools in that state, the University of is usually the dominant one. And in North Carolina, that's true. Duke and Wake Forest are both private schools. NC State's a big gigantic school with some sway, but they are the Texas A&M to the Texas, if you want to compare it here locally.
I mean, and you dig down on that further a little bit. I'm going with your point here. Besides Duke, maybe Kansas, is there a more recognizable basketball brand?
Yeah, they're in the like crown jewels of basketball when it comes to Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, UConn now you got to put up there, UCLA. Like those are if you were going to the Infinity Stones of college basketball, they're one of the Infinity Stones.
Exactly.
Right? They are definitely one of those things. So, but in football, you want to go down to the Marvel Universe, they wouldn't even get a show. They wouldn't even, they wouldn't even be Echo. They would pop into She-Hulk in and just I remember that character from the comic.
It's like how they were teasing Daredevil. Well, Daredevil would be even because he got 3 seasons of a different Netflix show. But yeah, it's like Daredevil coming in. You're like, I remember.
No, it's even who was a character on She-Hulk that popped in from the comics where you're like, oh, this guy, the guy who couldn't die, right?
Yeah.
That's how
they brought Rampage back or whatever.
Yeah,
Or not Rampage. What was his name? Anyway.
From the Abomination, yeah.
Yeah, the Abomination,
Even then, lower than that. Wouldn't even be a villain or a hero in any movie. Just right there, as a side character when it comes to football. Now, for basketball, they're Tony Stark, they're whatever, but they are not anything when it comes to football. So this means that, and look, it is the flagship university, I think, in the ACC when it comes to the leadership of it and where it comes from. Now, look, there are certainly big swinging D's now with Clemson and Florida State and some of those, Notre Dame is almost a full member, but not for football, but still, basically said you guys should add Stanford and Cal.
Yeah.
And they were like, should we? And the other schools they don't even play. They didn't even go here in football. And then they're like, yeah, but they said we should, so we're gonna
have a little bit more sway than I was prepared to admit.
Yeah. So, but yeah, when it comes to it, I mean, North Carolina is that kind of influential school, and
since 2000, what has been their crowning? I mean, Larry Fedora had them in some conversations a little bit. I mean, recently, Mac Brown got them to 10 wins, right?
Mac Brown got them to the championship game one time with Drake May, and they got stroked. So this is not a team that is regularly good in football and has been able to hide that for a very long time because in basketball, they're one of the greats.
Yeah.
And the greatest basketball player ever to walk the face of the earth went there. So
is their brand,
their brand is Jordan. Well, their football brand, and they've got some great ones, like Lawrence Taylor, greatest linebacker ever, all these things. They have not reached any kind of potential when it comes to football. So how do you do that in the modern era when things are changing? Well, you make a big swing, and Bill Belichick is a gigantic swing. Will any of this work? Can they raise the kind of money? Can they make the kind of financial commitment to football that they're going to have to make it work with him at 72 years old as well? Can they do that? I don't know if any of this makes total sense. I get, again, the big swing. I'm all for a big swing. I, though, am not just for, doing something because you think it's a big swing.
Yeah, okay, so let's work it out here. Let's go down the line. First of all, you talk about the money. of course, like you said, they are Jordan. Does Jordan care about football? Obviously enough to put his branding on their, and maybe he doesn't have any say of that. Probably doesn't. It's Nike, but like everything at that school is Jordan Brand. So can you go to the biggest donor, who the billionaire, the name, and be like, do you care about football? Do you want to see, because, rising tides and ships and all that. Obviously they have other big donors and other alumni, but, I think that's the big one. He just sold the, Charlotte Hornets for more money than God. And so that's number one, the money thing. Number two is you just fired an old coach for kind of losing a step. And then now you're going to hire a coach that everybody thought kind of lost a step, granted, at the NFL level, and you lost the best quarterback of all time. That's neither here nor there, but that may play into it a little bit. On the other hand, you get one of the greatest organizational managers of time and effort and game management and top to bottom. Now, at the end there, he was really bad at drafting, so that's kind of why they tanked a little bit.
Because part of the other thing he did was the buck stopped there for him with everything.
Yeah.
I mean, so everything had to be his idea, and I think that really hurt them.
And then he was butting heads with the owner and stuff, and the owner wanted to start taking more credit for what had come of that franchise and the dynasty that they built and yada, yada, yada. And there's a little give and take. They seem to have buried the hatchet, him and Robert Kraft, a little bit, I guess, if you watch the Brady roast. But, about him wanting to take more credit, and then Kraft maybe not wanting to spend as much money, and Belichick also taking flyers on picks that he shouldn't have taken. But he still, at the end of the day, is one of the greatest, getting depth out of people that you would have never thought should even play in the NFL. 6-round picks were helping him win Super Bowls, all the time.
Yeah.
And so there's that on that hand. You bring in one of the greatest organizational managers of all time. Is he prepared to do that at the college level? Because I'll use this as an example. I recently saw an interview. It just randomly, now that I'm talking about it, randomly popped up on my YouTube feed. YouTube Shorts is a great thing. You should subscribe to the Triple Option to see more of our YouTube Shorts. But a YouTube Short with LaShawn McCoy popped up, and he was talking about the years that Chip Kelly went from Oregon to being the head coach of the Eagles. And the Eagles had moderate success with Chip Kelly the first couple of years, and then it just bottomed out. And you know why it bottomed out? And LaShawn McCoy talked about this as much. The organizational stuff from college, where he had all the control, did not translate to talking to NFL players that much. And we talked about this with Ryan Day a little bit, but that transition for Chip Kelly did not work, where he was like, you do this when I say it, we monitor your sleep, we monitor your pee. Remember that story? We monitor, everybody's going to take a bus from the hotel to the game, and LaShawn McCoy's like, I have a Maserati. I'm going to drive a Maserati to the game. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're not going to monitor my sleep. I'm 30 years old. You don't have to do that. Where that seemed to have worked was for Belichick. I don't know if it was that in depth the team. Obviously, you had Brady and Gronkowski and all these stars, Moss at a certain point, but it seems like he got the buy-in from the team to raise that organization to be something, and nothing was bigger than the Patriots. Yeah, even Tom Brady almost didn't transcend above the Patriots until those final years. Yeah, especially in those first 3 years when he, for all intents and purposes, he wasn't the reason they were winning those Super Bowls. Really, it was that defense. So will that in-depth control maybe translate better down a level? It may, and I think it could. I don't know if he's prepared yet for how. Obviously, he's saying he wants to buy in from from the top down of, we got to have a certain set amount of money that's going to go to these players and yada, yada, yada. I don't know if he's prepared for the, hey, coach, I'm walking. Your star receiver at North Carolina that you've made into a star is actually, I'm going to just go down the road to Clemson now. I don't think he's prepared for that yet, personally. Maybe he is, but I would think, what do you mean we signed you to a contract? And I don't know if he's prepared that. And maybe you'll have people do this like his son Steve. Is the 72-year-old coach that is used to going into the same office every single day, yada, 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 going to want to fly across the country on bye weeks to go recruit and, do all that stuff that is kind of a young man's game at this point? Who's to say? I don't know.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I will tell you this. Here's, I've interviewed dozens of players who played for Belichick in Super Bowls. Dozens upon dozens. And they say the same thing. The reason that Belichick commands the respect of the players is, one, he treats you like an adult. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, most people didn't have a problem with him. They just he's the boss, we're the thing. It very much works like that kind of relationship. The other thing is that he's just he keeps it, he knows how to take complicated things and make them simple to explain.
Yeah.
So what he'll do is, because he's like Mr. Analytics and all these different things, is he said, okay, well, what other teams can't do, like against Peyton Manning, they're like, okay, all these other teams are trying to stop Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and Edgerrin James, right? They're all trying to do this. Well, really, we can do that, but those guys are only going to, you're not going to really stop them from handing the ball off to Edgerrin James, because they're going to do that 25 times a game. So we have to do our best with that. But what we really need to do, and what will help us win this game, is on third down and medium, 85% of the time he throws the ball to Dallas Clark. So on third down and medium, we're going to take Dallas Clark away. So then even the most brilliant quarterback in the league, Peyton Manning, is out of his rhythm.
Yeah.
So then if we take away half the third downs they get, then that's going to take away 10 to 17 points that they normally get, and we're going to win this game.
Yeah, so, just as a fan, I can tell you from watching the Texans blow games to them all the time when maybe they had better teams, and you kind of see this with the Chiefs right now too, where they're just winning tight games regardless because they're so well coached. It felt like on paper a couple of times that the Texans going into Foxborough or the Patriots coming down to Houston, where they had equal teams for the first time in maybe their histories, he said, okay, I'm just going to not let J.J. Watt beat me. Yeah. And J.J. Watt will admit he had the worst career games of his life against the Patriots. And it's not like they had all-pro guys eventually and guys that won Super Bowls on that offensive line, but usually it wasn't like first-round world beaters. Again, it was third, fourth round, fifth round picks that were stacked on that offensive line. And somehow he found a way. It's like, we're going to chip in with a running back. He's not going to beat us. He's not going to wreck this game. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they took the best pass rusher in the league out of the game, and they had no answer for the back end of the defense.
So look, if you're North Carolina, you're ready to make this commitment, they could change the game. Now look, I do think that the way that recruiting has gone and the way that it is, it's way more professional now. You do need to take a lot of coaches out of the recruiting thing. But there is a special dynamic when it comes to college kids who are young kids who still need to have a connection with their position coach and things like that. So that's going to need to be finessed. You can have a whole recruiting side and a coaching side and a GM's office and all that, but
you still got to get in the living room and shake hands and kiss babies.
In the NFL, I walk in and I hand them they hand me a contract. I've got a 3-year deal with the Buccaneers. I'm a tight end. This is my tight ends coach. And I more than likely came there because on my visit, I sat down with the tight ends coach, or I knew him from before, and I know that I like this guy. Boom. When I'm drafted, I've met with the position coach at probably more than likely at some point. Sometimes you never do meet with him. You're a 6th-round pick, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm going to the Buccaneers. All right. And you get there, and you like him, you don't like him. But in 4 years or whenever you get cut, you can move on and find somebody you like. That's how it is. Now, with recruiting and the way it is, you could have camps and all these other things. You could have 700 different tight end coaches that you like.
Yeah.
You could have all these ones. So how do you modernize that relationship? Right, Gary?
I think Deion Sanders has proven how you do it now. If you're going to have a staff, and Belichick wants to put a staff in place where you have guys specifically recruiting, let them be the ones that are making all the travel. Let them be the ones hitting the road, going and selling your program and what you have to offer. But then when it comes down to the finalization of it, hop on a Zoom. Like, let him come in and be the closer. I think that's kind of
That's a good point.
where you're at right now in this situation. Now, if it hadn't been proven to work for Colorado, and I'm not saying this is guaranteed that you can make this happen consistently. I think it takes the right type of person to do it. But if anybody else can make this work, I think it's Bill Belichick that can come in and just close it over a Zoom.
You know, many people have said Bill Belichick and Deion Sanders equal parts charismatic.
Yeah.
Many people have said charisma kings, Bill Belichick at the top.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, that's – but here's the deal. There are going to be people who go, oh, I'm going to go play for
That's
Bill Belichick.
what I wanted to make that point, because if he – look, he has 8 Super Bowl rings.
NFL developmental, because that's what Alabama was.
Yep.
Alabama is 9-3 this year because the guys who went there just because they knew they'd have a better shot at the NFL left because Kalen DeBoer can't promise them that. Now, is Kalen DeBoer a bad – no, Nick Saban is putting 12 guys in the league every year. Kalen DeBoer, like, hasn't done that yet. You know, so now you can dissipate all that around because there's really only 2 coaches every year who are doing that, and it's whoever the 2 hottest coaches are. So right now it'd be Kirby Smart and look,
Dan Lanning,
maybe even Ryan Day to some regard, because they're throwing dudes in the NFL like nobody's business.
Yeah,
it's just they don't win the one game a year. Everybody needs them to win for their sanity. So yeah, I think it, again, you can't say it will work or it won't work until it happens. And and the one thing I think is very interesting is this is not a Bill Belichick going back to college saying like, oh, I prefer this to the NFL grind. Like, I want to be around young people. It is him saying, well, this industry is maybe morphing towards more of what I understand.
Right.
And this is intriguing to me at the end of my career, instead of trying to go back in and look, trying to go back in and find another Tom Brady. The great thing about college football is, look, you draft a quarterback in the first round, you've got him for 4 or 5 years.
Well, you got to make it work.
And you've got and even if you cut him after a year, you're still saddled with his salary cap number for the next 4. So you have all this. Well, in college football, all right, well,
that didn't work.
Let's move on, and we'll go do this. And then the transfer pipeline and the recruiting pipeline are just essentially there because they're like, well, all right, well, that guy didn't work out. You know, they misanalyzed that. Well, I can go get this guy, you know, and this will work out because he fits what we do.
I'm interested to see if this is because he also just didn't get any looks at the NFL, which would be shocking.
No, I think he did. I think, though, like, again, if I'm saying, all right, I won 6 Super Bowls with Tom Brady, right? I've done that, but I couldn't do anything without him. You know, I do have to admit that in addition to the way that they worked and they really worked at it, that there was some stroke of luck that Tom Brady was available to him there, that nobody else saw any of the potential that he did, and that everything worked. Look, if Drew Bledsoe never gets his spleen exploded in a game, when do we find out about it? Like, there is luck involved in anything, and
I still think that, like, if Drew Bledsoe doesn't get hurt, they're still winning. Maybe they don't win 6, but, like, they're still winning 3 Super Bowls or something.
They might have won, you know. But, again, Drew Bledsoe gets hurt. Like, all these things happen after that. But also, you would have been kind of saddled with certain things. Like, it's different the way it works in a 53-man roster as opposed to what'll be 105 and all that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, he has 6 Super Bowls that he was a head coach, 2 as a defensive coordinator. People like to forget that with the Giants. He has a Super Bowl ring almost for every finger. You go and you wear one of those bad boys into a living room, there's going to be kids that are like, yeah, okay, thanks. That would be great. I'd like to play for that guy. You know, again, we've said on this program that a lot of coaches are the CEOs of their program, and sometimes guys aren't prepared to handle all of that. If anybody's ready to do it, it's probably Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
I go back and forth because I'm like, yeah, he's old. It flamed out in the NFL, which is where everybody's trying to get. Saban was what? In his 50s? Late 40s when he took the Alabama job? 50s probably? So he had time to build it up and then became the greatest college football head coach of all time.
Yeah.
How long are they giving Belichick?
As long as he probably wants. I mean, So
What, he's going to be 82? We haven't won the national championship yet, but we're getting there with 82-year-old Bill Belichick. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to besmirch him, but I'm just saying there comes a time in all of these coaches' lives, whether they want to admit it or not, and I'd be interested to see because they're great friends, him and Saban. They made that whole documentary together on ESPN. Saban got out because he was not prepared to handle what college football became. He said as much, right? Mm-hmm. He just said he's tired of it. Maybe Belichick, because he's used to contracts and negotiations and all that stuff, maybe he's more prepared than Saban was coming down a level. I don't know. I just think that the greatest football coach of all time got too old and too worn out with how football was going. He probably still could have done it. I'm not saying that Saban could have had this Alabama team right in that playoff again this year.
Yeah.
But one of his good friends, the other greatest coach of all time, was like, no thanks. This is too much.
Yeah.
I'm out. I don't want to keep doing this. I don't want to keep worrying about the transfer portal. I don't want to have to worry about, what our schedule is going to look like. I don't have to worry about fighting and campaigning to get into the 12-team playoff. I don't want to have to worry about conference realignments. I don't want to have to worry about all of it, the gauntlet. Is Bill Belichick ready? It's stupid of me to say, is the 6-time winning Super Bowl winning head coach ready for college football? But is he ready to take North Carolina to that precipice?
And is North Carolina really ready for what he's asking for?
Yeah.
That's the big thing is, here's how I think I can do it. And this is why I also think that there's a great chance that North Carolina says no.
That'd be crazy.
That would be like, okay, look, we understand this is, but we're not to this point yet.
Right.
You're asking for seismic changes in the way that business is done. And while we agree that a lot of that has to be done, we still have a lot of questions in front of us as to what is going on. And a lot of this has to do with private equity, Congress, the settlement, all lawsuits, all this stuff. They can go ahead and say and settle this stuff up but still not have the allocated resources yet. And it's going to take a massive amount of fundraising in a pretty short amount of time to make Bill Belichick relevant in the ACC quickly.
But you don't think that gives a little bit of a kick in the pants to boosters? Or, hey, we got the guy,
Well, I think that's what they're trying to do. But again, this might be the thing is look, I would love to be the coach, but here are my conditions. We're good on a salary number, but I need this is my budget. That's where they could be I just don't know if we can make this happen. So this story either sounds to me like Belichick is about to be the UNC head coach, or they set up a situation where UNC can go, hey, we tried this really different idea. And really we're going to go hire Jamie Chadwell now because that's the guy we should have hired in the first place. But
we kicked the tires.
Well, we did. Listen, we tried to get Belichick. We tried to do this. Although I would feel bad for Jamie Chadwell, anybody who got that job afterwards, because if they struggle, it'll be well, Belichick wouldn't be struggling.
Right.
Well, he might be. You don't know.
Yeah.
Look, you've seen Steve Belichick's haircut. You think you just walk into a room and recruit? No.
You've seen how he mouth breathes on camera.
Yeah. There's
no offense to Steve Belichick, but you see every cutaway of Steve Belichick is him on camera.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe they blocked that punt. You're like, oh, brother.
Yeah.
You're the heir apparent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, look, it is a pretty brilliant strategy to go back to college when you're dating a girl who just got out of college.
Oh.
So that in case that doesn't work out, you are, you're in the right, region to do it again.
You're talking about Big Bill.
Yeah, Big Bill. Oh
yeah, I forgot about
his
Instagram or her Instagram is wild because it's here I am with my dad, but it's actually her boyfriend.
Yeah,
it's I don't want to go down this road, but it is. Check it out.
Here's what I can tell. Look, I don't know this for a fact, and if I'm wrong, I will apologize. But the fact that her Instagram probably doesn't have a lot of pictures of her and her dad is why she's dating Bill Belichick.
Bingo.
So, look, there are normally two dead set. I'm going to tell this to, I mean, you're married and you're married. Mm-hmm. Emery, we're going to tell this to you. Would you like the two bellwethers of whether or not you're going to have a problem with a girl that you're dating? One of them is if she's a stripper, because it means that her dad failed her miserably. Maybe her mom, but definitely her dad. I mean, you tell me a stripper that has a good relationship with her father.
I bet they're hard to find. Hard to find.
Yeah. They're not strippers out there that are like, oh, I wouldn't be here if not for my dad. He really supported me every step of the way. There's not.
Can't wait to go home for Thanksgiving.
The most casual, hands-off father who's still a good dad in the world. If she's like, hey, Dad, I got this great job. It pays a lot of money in tips. Like, oh, you got a high-dollar steakhouse, like one of those fancy steakhouses? No. I'm going to show him a cooch on stage. People are going to throw cash at it. He wouldn't be like, you know what? I'm so proud. I am busting with pride.
Support you in all your endeavors, sweetie.
Yeah. The other one is when you have a boyfriend that is 50 years older than you, Dad wasn't there. Wasn't there.
The Austin Powers song.
I mean, yeah.
Daddy wasn't there.
Yeah, he wasn't there. I can promise you that. This isn't a theory. This isn't, this is proven out. The fossils.
Books have been written.
Yeah, the fossils have been found, all right? We know that there were T-Rexes, all right? This is what the story is. Right now, I'm telling you, those two things, if you want to, flesh out for sure daddy issues, way older boyfriend or stripper.
I think the University of North Carolina is like, what's going on, guy?
Yeah. And look, here's the thing. They're so desperate to win in football. They're like, well, whatever. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Tony Randall had a very young wife and had kids well into his 70s. And he's a beloved American actor and comedian. So we shouldn't judge.
Didn't both Pacino and De Niro just have kids?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so Bill.
Yeah.
So you want organizational control?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay. Who's going to be your offensive coordinator?
That'll be Matt Patricia.
The defensive coordinator.
That'll be Steve-O.
No, your defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, is going to be your offensive coordinator.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's what happened there. Yeah.
Bill, we're not going to do this again. Well, do you want me or not? That's my thing. Is he going to bring Josh McDaniels down with him? Or not Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
Was it Josh McDaniels?
Yeah, McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels.
Steve Belichick, Matt Patricia. They probably
run it back.
Yeah.
Billy O's up in Boston College. Maybe you can get him down there.
Yeah. Maybe so.